Hello, everybody at the Marigo. We are here again with another show on coronavirus. Our topic today is coronavirus, worldwide effect. How does it impact you? Today, it's Terencia here, Modovoga, who is your host. We have two guests this morning, London time. We have Adobe and we have Peter. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining us. We have Marcelina also at the show. This morning, I'm going to ask Dr. Marcelina to introduce for us the topic. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome, Dr. Marcelina.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, our viewers, wherever you may be. It's just a simple topic today, but it will be made complicated by your discussions when you join in and whenever you make the contributions. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of COVID-19 as to where we stand today worldwide and what the effects are. I will give you a brief summary of what this impact is in terms of deaths, what might be the effect in terms of the economy of the countries or the various states. So let me get there without any further ado. Now, globally, COVID-19 has affected us, of course, but I will pose a question and ask, how does that affect you or impact you? If we look at the deaths as a measure of what impact it has on the various countries, we have 5 or 6 countries that are leading in terms of deaths. And as you all know, death is the final outcome. Beyond death, you can't do anything. So USA is leading at 21%. Brazil follows by 14%, India 10%, Mexico 8%, United Kingdom and Italy are at 4%, and the rest of the country about 39 or 49%. With the United Kingdom, the numbers as of yesterday was over 42,000 deaths. That is statistics we have as of from yesterday. Now, the whole nation or the whole world has reached 1 million deaths since the world declared this COVID-19 pandemic. It took the whole world 40 weeks to reach that 1 million deaths. It's been projected that it may take just 10 weeks for another 1 million deaths to occur, about December time. And also, once we've clocked that 1 further million, it may take only just about 4 weeks for yet another 1 million to occur, which is in about January time. So the effect, of course, of death is not something to take lightly. It is huge on the world, on individual levels, and on the economy of the country. If we look at the economy of the country, the big players, or the 5-6 big players of the world economy, are yet America, number 1 at 21 trillion, if we look at over 21 trillion, if we look at the GDP, followed by China. Now, America is service dependent for its economy. China follows very as the second leading one at 14.14 trillion. Now, remember, China does import oil. Japan follows at 5, Germany at 3.86, India follows at 2.9, United Kingdom follows at 2.74. Now, you may argue and say these are not accurate measures of what the activities of the economy of the country does. But I just wanted to bring this to you because if these countries are affected, with what is going on, whether with the COVID-19 or with relationship between the two countries, it will affect not only those nations, but it will affect the common man, you and me, who are sitting right at the bottom, who may not even understand what GPD is. So just bear that in mind. And remember, if one country is dependent on oil and the other country is not able to produce oil because of the manpower that is lacking, or the other country is dependent on service and the country that is able to provide the service is not able to give it, or there's breakdown in bilateral communications, what is the effect of that? And so, effect of COVID-19 in real terms on our day-to-day lives. We've seen deaths. The death toll is still rising amongst the population. Could it be, we could say that the demands of the industry has shifted in producing PPE, vaccines, and medicines, and it neglected the other economies? Could we say the lockdown has resulted into shutting down many factories that are deemed as non-essential, etc.? What about import trades between countries? Is it in decline? Or bilateral relations not being held as effectively as it could be? Could you say there's a blame game? Some people may say, oh, this pandemic originated in China and therefore people are not doing businesses with China, etc., etc. Oil production, is it in decline because of the manpower resources? Socially, are lives affected negatively or positively? Somebody could say the lockdown is a positive effect. It could be a negative effect. I don't know. I'm throwing that to you, the viewers and the audience, and the impact on education across the sector and various other sectors on a whole. What is it? So that is me in brief introducing you to what we want to discuss today. For you to join in, of course, and also contribute, both the panelists and the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marcelina. Indeed, that was a very fantastic introduction to the effects of the coronavirus, on all of us globally, listing down exactly the effects according to, to the countries. I saw Brazil's rise. In the beginning, Brazil was doing quite well, and we saw the rise in the death until it got to, very close to America. And I saw the fall, because in the beginning, when this situation started, Italy was doing, and we remember we were really feeling very sorry for Italy, and we saw how Italy, kept its situation steady, and now it's not among the 5 who was severely affected by this COVID-19, as you can see. I'd like to hear from the panelists, what's your contribution? What do you think? What do you say? How has it impacted you? Thank you. All right, Ade, would you want to contribute?
Is it me?
Yeah, if you can. Yeah, you're welcome.
I would like to say that the COVID-19 has actually. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'd like to say that the COVID-19 has changed the world. It came like a thief, because I remember when it was in China, nobody knew it was going to come to England. Today, we are seeing the impact and the way it has changed our life. Even China, that it started, they have bounced back on their feet and they're actually doing well. But the countries that have been affected haven't managed to come back on its feet. Why is this so? I think because various governments they didn't put any plan in place initially. Until today, they are giving inconsistent advice. Sometimes they say 6 people shouldn't gather together, or they're going to fine you the £1,000 or 100 pounds. Then you see our school children, they go to school, they're 24 to 35 in a class, and they come home. If they catch this, they're going to come home and give it to the family. So what sense is that? And also, I think that they talk about Africa. It's gone to Africa, but it hasn't impacted Africa the way they expected. Africa don't have the same infrastructure like the Western world because we don't have hospitals. We don't have certain things like all the vaccines. That's medicine that can help poor people. Those people are poor there. But the Western world, where it's supposed to be, they have everything. They are actually seeing the effect more, and more people have died. And I still see, all I see is talk. They talk a lot, but there's nothing being put in place. I think they should actually consult with families to find out how families can help, not just the government giving orders. It should be something that families should be asked, how do you think we can help you? How do you think we can keep families safe? Not just giving orders from behind closed doors. Because most of the things they say is not practical. Yesterday in the paper, I saw that they said, there's lockdown revolts. People are not happy. It's because they are just some people that give these orders. They have chauffeurs, they have cooks, they have housekeepers. They don't even do what the basic family does. Most of the basic families, they go shopping. They have to mix with the people that might have corona, and they don't have somebody doing their shopping for them. So they are the one that are in the battlefield. They see all these things, not those on the higher escalion. So I
A
think
lot.
they need to consult with families so that we can all work together. It's not one person giving orders. Our views have to be taken in consideration. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Marcelina and Modo and the last speaker. In Australia, COVID-19 has really affected people in many levels. My job being, I'm a social worker by profession, and I work a lot with families. And I work in the Department for Child Protection. I think in England is probably Child Services, or in America, like I work with families. So that entails me to witness the impact of Corona in families, in a family level, really severely. Um, but COVID-19 is, when I think it came at the wrong time. It came during the time where the trade war was just started with China and America and other Western world. When COVID-19 came, I think it was not really taken serious. It was people, first I think the governments were thinking maybe this is something that is done by China. It might not be coming over. So I think they've been very complacent in putting forward plans into that, and it was far in China. Nobody expected it, but when it spread, no government in the world were prepared for it. There was no contingency plan that were put in place. Take example, Australia. Australia COVID-19 actually came via a ship, a tourist ship that was stranded amidst the COVID-19. And when it came, people really, many people in that boat were affected by corona, but there was no testing. But then there's no regulation put in place. Those people are let on board, and that's how COVID-19 would transmitted in Australia, or brought about in Australia. And there's been inquiry about that, and the inquiry found out that nobody, people weren't prepared, and few heads were returned, and a few people really did lose jobs because of that. In terms of it economically, it's going to be huge. The Prime Minister of Australia just recently predicted that this is going to be the worst recession brought about by COVID. So, what in terms of government intervention uh, here in assisting families, they introduce social welfare system where those who are not employed, or those people who lost their job, they're given some allowance. It's called job keeper. That would just to keep you up, getting some money income while you are unemployed. And those who are dependent on Centrelink or social welfare, they've been given about if they're receiving maybe, let's say, $300 or $400 a fortnight, that was bumped up to uh, $800 a fortnight. But the government cannot sustain that for very very long time period, because um, there are no economical activities that is going on. All the borders are shut. For example, now uh, the border between Northern Territory and South Australia is open. Western Australia is still shut, and between Sydney just opened theirs last week, and then uh, Melbourne case is the worst in Australia at the moment. They're still in lockdown, severe lockdown, and people are not able to do any economical activities. In South Australia, it's a little bit. It is a little bit like, as of today, there's only one case that is active, and 400 and something, 460 or 45 active cases. So we are coming up okay, but as a state. But if the rest of the country are not really on, there's no economic activities that is going on, it will impact people more. So when I come to like the family level, for example, my day-to-day job that I see, there's been a lot of increase in domestic violence within families, uh, because during the shutdown period, everybody's at home. Um, Normally, people will be at work, but everybody's at home. Uh, there's a lot more uncertainty within the family, job issue. So that brought a lot of tension within families. You see a lot of domestic violence or children getting, beaten up, or uh, there's a there's a lot of social issues that are brought about by COVID-19, and the long-term impact of that is. Uh, Unfortunately, there are some also there's been increase in suicide. People do commit a lot of suicide because there are some businesses, small businesses that have been active around within the family for generation, that are lost, and that will never come back again. And it's quite um, very very serious and long term impact on families. And when within African communities, let's say in I don't know other states, but in South Australia, for example, I find a lot more people tend to be a bit complacent. Uh, Social distance, I don't think people really observe as much, especially among the young people. You see still young people going about and partying, and that is a lot of bring a lot of issues. Like, but in generally, it's coming okay, and I can't say that we haven't seen, we've seen the worst of it. I still think COVID-19 is here to stay, and I think people still need to be really observing all the regulations that are put out in place by the various government. In terms of relationship between countries, it is very difficult because uh, it's not like if one country is going through rough time, and then maybe another country will have, because every country, this is like every country to their own, each to their own. You know, it is very difficult. And I don't know how this is gonna go. Especially take example for Australia at the moment, because Australia mainly tend to allied with America, and that is creating a very big, serious trade wars, or um, unhealthy relationship between China, which is close to America, close to Australia, and it has been at the moment. There's been a lot of boycott of Australian product in China, especially like a beef industry. And we don't know how that how is that going to be resolved, or how that impact is, whether it's brought about by Corona, or brought about, because people don't talk about it generally, but the people in the street or politicians don't talk about it. But a lot of perception of COVID-19 is it's a China's fault. Everybody's pointing finger at China, and I don't think China is taking that lightly either. So I say, in terms of economical, or international trade, it's going to be a big implication for a very long time.
Yeah. Wow. I must interject and say that was really, really very, very good, input, Peter. Yes, I think well before the lockdown, yes, there was that beef between China and the rest of the world superpower, if you like to call it, isn't it? Because of the trade relationship. And COVID-19 having first been identified in China hasn't made it easier, just as I said in the introduction. Now, people are still having the blame game. Now, my reading or looking into this is whether you blame China or not, the reality is the actual illness or the actual problem is here. It's killing us. What are you doing about it? That is where people should come from. That is the angle you need to tackle this problem from. Now, perhaps what needs to be looked at is when the cases sprang from China. I know China went to radical lockdown, but what perhaps needs to be looked at is were the borders also locked? Or was it just local lockdown? Maybe this is what people need to focus on. Because if it was a complete lockdown, including the borders, how did the cases then come on to the rest of the world, for example? I'm just asking. I don't know. I need to go back and read and research this further to know how this happened. And Bori, the ship case where you said that corona cases were brought by that tourist ship, that is a huge, 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 huge inquiry needing situation, which has got a lot of impact on the nation. But one interesting thing I like about, or I'd like to talk about Australia, Peter, isn't it the case that Australia's health care or management is regionalized? For instance, I know Western Australia is doing far better. Could we say it is the fact that that region's Minister of Health or the governor, whatever you call them, has put in measures way before the others, and the citizens are also obeying? That's why they're doing far better than the rest of the Australian citizen. That is a question for you to answer, maybe to elaborate on. I'm interested in knowing. And my other comment goes to Daobi. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I know you said that Africa is less impacted. Well, my dear sister, that is a blessing. We don't have the resources. If Africa were to hit as Africa was hit by the HIV/AIDS, the whole continent will be wiped, my dear. Maybe what is helping us is, even if the social distancing is not being observed, naturally, the way we are sparsely built and the vast nation of the country and the rural space has given us that natural social distancing, I believe, apart from the cities. If you go away from the cities, at least the social distancing become natural. In terms of here in the UK, you talked about the government involving the families in order to sort of find out or set a roadmap as to what to do in terms of dealing with this situation. Yes, that may be possible, but unless a government puts something tentatively in place and work from there, it's going to be difficult. Yes, I know there is a rule of six, then there is a rule of not six, and then people are breaking it. As you can see, even high ranking officials or people in the government are equally breaking it. Where do we stop? Again, if you say schools should not open, COVID-19 is going to be here. COVID-19, I don't think is going away today or tomorrow. So how do you go about these schools? It is, I think, us as parents, as families, we need to hammer it into our kids. We need to educate the children right from home. Yes, you're going to school because the government say it's relatively safe. But as a child of mine, I'm telling you, even when you go to school, you at that age, you still have the chance of possibly catching this infection. Do A, B, C, D. That's my view.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Teresa, yeah, you're right. In Western Australia,
Marcelina, perhaps?
say that again.
Marcellin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
are absolutely right. Western Australia, among the Australian state, has done, considering it's one of the among the largest state per population, has done really well in terms of controlling. They are the first state to go on lockdown. They went on lockdown as far as early March, I would say, and the rest of the state went on lockdown around 20th of March. So Western Australia went a lot earlier, and they shut their borders, and businesses gathered. Social distancing rules are stringent, and also they have put social gathering, for example, wedding, bars, all everything shut. As we speak, a lot of most states are now relaxing, exception of Melbourne. They've relaxed uh, the increased numbers of how many people can gather in one space, or weddings, attending wedding. So Western Australia is still there, is very, very still controlled. And some states start opening borders, but Western Australia are still not allowing their borders to be closed. And I think this is also bringing a bit of rift between the states. But you're right. They put if government put a lot more measures, this is it is just their temper to control. But ultimately, I think COVID-19 will be here to stay, and unless vaccine or other control measures are in place, and citizens are not going to continue to stay locked down. As you can see, there are some states already. People are, like I've seen in the news this morning, in Victoria, people are breaking the curfew, and many people went out in a beach in so defiant to this because people are really getting tired. And Melbourne has done worse. Victoria has done worse in terms of management of corona, because they have done inquiry right early on. Everybody, people that came who are locked out of Australia, who came to Victoria, or some citizens who are affected by COVID, there's a hotel that they're being housed in. But what happened there was that they the management of hotel, or people who are supposed to be quarantining these people, are privatized, and they private company. They really haven't follow or managed this thing very well. There was an inquiry of it. That's the finding of inquiry, and they are now replaced by the police. and the federal government, not the federal government, but the government taking a lot more stringent measures by bringing police and other services to manage that. So it all comes back to the the strict rules and regulation that are placed, and also depending on the citizen, if citizens are following. Part of the outbreak in Victoria was when, amidst these, people went on to rally, and some commentators are blaming those crowds of spreading those or bring a secondary wave of coronavirus in Victoria. I don't know how true that is, but that's part of the blame. When it comes to families, yes, I would still encourage my child or my children to be really vigilant, and it's us parents who can also contribute. I think Corona does not only require government intervention, but also personal safety. People need to take responsibility, in how they go about their day-to-day businesses. This thing is here, so we need to be able to realize, yeah, this is quite a serious, deadly disease. There's no cure at this time. Nobody knows what it is. As you can see, all the nations are searching, and it turns people upside down, including scientists. So even if the vaccine is there, vaccine and Brazilian, you will know this one better. Vaccine cannot just be done in period of 1 year or 2 years. This is something that need to be trialed, need to be worked in a laboratory. It will take years for this to come. For the end results to come. Even that might not be that perfect yet. So there's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
trials. So we have a long way to go.
indeed we do. Thank you so much, Agala, Peter Agala. To our listeners out there, we are now way after we've covered half an hour. Now we're going into the second part. And just to let you people know, you who are in the panel, we've got just one feedback, and it says, "I salute you all, my wonderful people." That's the feedback we got from our community watching us. So we are now entering the next half of our show. We are continuing to talk. I'm going to go to Adiobi, who was talking about the situation in Africa. It hasn't indeed got as worse as it is here in the Western world, and we pray that it remains so. Probably, our people, like my sister, I was talking to my sister sometimes back, and she said, when the situation started, the corona situation started, they would always pray when they see the rain is about, the clouds are forming. They would pray, "Oh, clouds don't form," because they thought they called that the situation the worst, uh, the cases are, or people get infected. And probably that could be right, because I remember when COVID hit Australia, it was very warm in Australia. I don't know this, but it was warm in Australia, and it was very cold in the other parts, like UK. It was very cold, and in America it was cold, and the situation got worse. And when summer approached, we saw more cases in Australia now. I cannot tell whether that is the situation, or whether it just arrived Australia very late. Um, Adiobi, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's okay. So, what would you like me to talk on?
yeah. I'm just elaborating. I'm just talking about what you said, and you know, yeah. So I'm just elaborating on what you say, that the situation wasn't as bad as it is here. The situation in Africa, and I'm saying indeed it is true. Our people are thinking because the weather in Africa is better, maybe that is why. We don't know. I was so much interested in about the effect of corona. Our children who have gone back to school. My son is gone to uni, and he's been in his room. all this time, he's gone out for lectures once. In a week, he only goes out once. And I'm thinking in my head, um, now he's renting an accommodation because he has left home. He's renting an accommodation. He has to stay in for 6 days, and then he goes for lectures just once a day, and he comes back home. How effective is that? He might as well have gone from home, you know. So I don't know, especially for the people who are coming maybe from Africa to study here in the Western world. How would that impact their pocket? It will impact their pocket negatively because people can now study online. You can do a lot of things online, and maybe you could just come in to sit exams. So I'm sure a lot of parents are facing that situation whereby their children have to sit home, and that can cause depression. That's my next fear because they've gone to a foreign place, they don't know anybody there, they can't move, they stay in their rooms, they have to observe social distancing, so they can't make friends quite easily. That is another fear in me. I'm happy to listen to other people's views. Like Peter, you got children or young children school age. Have they gone back to school? How is their situation? Because I'm told by one of the teachers you can't even hug a child now. You're supposed to keep that distance. How do you see what the
Can
child?
I contribute to the university
Yeah, yeah,
students?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because that's what I said that the government, they have to work with families, because it's okay for you to tell your child to be careful, but sometimes the parents need some resources. Some of them have got children that are autistic, or children that don't like staying at home, probably because of illnesses, or some are having accommodation problem, like 5 or 6 families stay in 2 bedroom. So all those are the things they have to find out. What can we do for you families? Like the social services, they have to go down to the root level and feedback to the government. Will be help with money, help with resources, or just having somebody coming to talk to them. The one of the students going to university, that one is actually good because they want to promote schooling. But what they fail to put is things in place. If you ask students to go to school and you don't provide resources in case of coronavirus, that is not good for the government. Because what the government don't know is that in schools, I know they say young people don't adhere to social distance, but if they catch it in school, are you going to leave them just like that? They are citizens of this world, and they're future generations. Even if they are not going to contribute to society, but which I know they will, the school is supposed to have a plan B, that when some students have it, they have to have like isolation centers. What is going on? Some students have this corona and they are left in the same place with people that don't have it. So those that don't have it, they eventually catch it. So are you trying to create a corona camp where people with corona will spread it to the others? And some of these children, they don't have medical facilities. I have heard that they phone the hospitals and they have like 1 month appointment. There's no emergency that come and help them. And nobody is doing their shopping. I heard in America, they were sending them Deliveroo, they give them gift voucher so that they can bring cooked food. But that, apart from that, some people might be too ill to get out. How do you find an ambulance? So there have to be people that will go into the schools and check. Because sending them to school just because you want the lecture, but the government, when they catch this corona, most of them they self-isolate on their own, but they leave the students to isolate together. So they have one toilet or one kitchen. Of course, they still have to cook somebody with corona because there's nobody helping. So I think the things they are doing is not helping. Even Donald Trump, when he has corona, he's not, somebody else is helping him. He's in his room with his wife. Even Boris Johnson, when he had corona, he wasn't cooking himself. He was very ill. So if these students get like that, do they want that? These are your future generations. They are going to look after you. If you treat them like that, they are going to put all of you in old people's home when you are old. These are the people that are going to rule the country today. We want them healthy. We want to show them how to run a country by looking after them so that when they get to the top, they will also do the same to their own generation. So things have to change to have a better country.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
I do agree with that.
sorry, Adobe, I think that's quite interesting. Yes, these kids cook for themselves. Well, there are different levels. Somebody may be ill, somebody may be mildly sick, somebody may be severely sick. Now, the severely sick cannot cook for themselves.
Yeah.
Now, indeed, yes, there's one kitchen, one or two toilets, and one living room. To my understanding, it's the same thing as if you were sick at home. You self-isolate in the sense that if you're in the kitchen or in the bathroom, the rest stay away. But at least at home, somebody will prepare your food and leave it at the door. It's not the case when you are at the universities, unless you've got friends who will sacrifice that time and cook for you. Now, where that is not in place, perhaps you will live on takeaways. Now, for people who've sent kids on school, even if you haven't sent kids on school, perhaps these are things that should be raised up. This should be discussed with the system. I mean, valid point. And also, it has to be looked at. If somebody is sick, what is the waiting time for them to be tested and either say they've got corona or not? It is quite a lot. It may be a long waiting time even here, because I was listening to the news that people who are calling in to be tested for coronavirus from their GP in some areas are not even getting that done easily, because it may boil down to the fact that the NHS is completely, overstretched, or maybe the facilities are not there, or the manpower is not there. I don't know, but it's a big issue. It's a big issue that may still face more than what we expect now.
Thank you.
My take is, I think, for the young people, the younger generation to be involved to take coronavirus serious is actually to get them involved in the execution of this coronavirus program. Maybe even at the university level, at the school level, they should introduce coronavirus education, whereby these children, they participate and they answer these questions which the government is posing to us. Because if you feel part of the system, if you feel if you contributed to something, you own it. When you own something, then you implement it. But something that is put in a plate for you and given to you in a plate, you won't value it like something you have actually worked for. So I think our young people, right from the secondary school, when they are the sixth formers, they are big enough, and even the university boys and girls, they are big enough, they should also participate in this decision making. They have to form like a student unions or groups whereby they discuss, and then they come out with the plans of how they can control this disease, instead of them being told how to control it. And maybe they have better ways. Maybe they can. Maybe they will give us a better solution of how to deal with this situation. But we are not looking at them. We are just, feeding them with what we have. Maybe that's what we should look at as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. But I think ultimately, tackling these corona issues really, or the measures that put in place with various government, or I don't know the situation in UK, but ultimately I think it will not only the government solution alone, it has to be people's solution working together with the government. Because imagine to reach a point where all these businesses, trades are gone, and the country run bankrupt. What are we going to be doing? because that's another thing that we and then another thing unknown about coronavirus is what are the side effects, even if people recover some years to come, because that's something that we also need, people need to, 10, 20 years, 30 years time to come. Are these people going to be the same? What is going to happen there? In terms of Australia, what it generates for students, these online studies, both in primary and university level, is I've always been critical about when it comes to African or refugee or migrant people that move to Australia, for example, and live here. I've always been critical about the education system, because you find you pay, even if your child goes to private school or government school, you pay a lot of money. At the end of the day, you cannot sit in your lounge room comfortable and relax, because the homework and everything at school, everything is done at home. So you'll find a teacher, a student, and parent all work together. But you sometimes you ask yourself, I'm paying so much money, why am I doing this homework at home? You are basically teaching your own children at home. When the corona hit, and mind you, there are some parents who cannot speak right English. English is not a second language. Obviously, even before the coronavirus, a lot of young people are put at disadvantage. In primary, they'll go okay, but when they reach high school, because the basics of reading and comprehension, it's not there, because one of the parents maybe cannot read and write, or maybe the work commitment, because we have to maintain families. When corona hit, this actually became worse, because a child can come with the homework on online studies. Mom is not, or dad is not really technological savvy, and that really created a lot of things for younger children, even for university students. Example, those international students who are stranded here, when schools are closed, they have to fend for themselves. I'm quite sure there are international students as well from Africa or other part of the world that in UK probably nobody pays attention to them and how they're suffering. And we have people, few African families that are stranded in Africa, and they cannot come back here. And I've seen government's effort trying to support people who are stranded in the UK, support people who are in neighboring countries, but nobody talks about African people who are stranded in Africa to come back and join their family. And mind you, some of these families here, young kids are left by themselves. So coronavirus has brought a lot of implications for people, families, and both macro and meso level. That are yet for us to address.
Wow. I think this education, it's interesting you've mentioned that. Education before Corona or after Corona has been interesting in this country. Personally, I cannot say I can keep up with it, I say, thanks God I don't have children that I have to educate now. But I can see it from my daughter. When the COVID-19 came and the kids were being educated at home, my daughter was tearing her hair out because she had to teach her children, and it's quite taxing. And I do remember my grandson saying, Mommy, you know what? You're a very, very, very good teacher, brilliant teacher, but you're a bad mother. Because she will really meticulously do what is expected on and on and on. But when it comes to maybe, for example, the other skills, telling the son, go and have a bath, go and do this. He wants the son to do that, and the son doesn't like that. But when it comes to homework, they're sitting side by side. You've got to do this. This is what we're doing. And he didn't like it. But anyway, what I want to say here is, I think the education system we have now may be the best for the generation or the era in which we're living. But to me, something is lacking. And what is lacking is the social skills. These people, don't get me wrong, when it comes to the computers, they open it with their eyes closed and they know the programs were even in their dream. Yes. But there are certain things outside the class and outside this computer they don't know. If you ask them to climb a tree, they will have to go on the internet. to search how to climb a tree. If you tell them how to tie a shoelace, they still go on the internet.
They can't even write using a pen.
Yeah. The social skills are lacking. A lot of things are lacking. So to me, these children are not thinking outside the box. I'm sorry to say so. So therefore, unless they were exposed as we were exposed in the wilderness, in the wild, to do things in the open and figure things out, you cannot tell me that's not mathematical. If I have to calculate the distance between putting a tree, 1 foot on this tree trunk and to the next one to be able to climb, that is mathematical. If I know how to survive in the jungles or how to eat which, all these things, they don't have it. So how are we going to get over this? This is the problem. And the society and the environment in which we are living is not helping them. Where is the field for them to go? You can't leave a child out without watching a child because you don't know who is watching that child for evil purposes. We've lost that. That is the problem where we are having now. So I don't know how that's going to be changed. And so it's going to impact us hugely, whether it's negatively, to me anyway, to some aspect, or positively, but it's going to impact on us and the future generation, unfortunately.
Yeah. In short, let me just respond. I think in short, African people, for example, let me just put it African people, we should not forget the way we lived back there. You know, there are some members of our families who are probably disadvantaged in one way or other. I think we should be using human resources among us, you know, by having maybe strong community or identifying certain people within the community. Post-COVID, probably we'll have to use, you know, I'm quite sure that in Australia, you know, these councils, they have maybe teachers or other places. If a parent's probably struggling, I think it's best, you know, knowing where to access those services. But at the moment, of course, because of the COVID, these services are all restricted. How it's offered is being put on hold, and it does affect families. And I 100% agree. Young people nowadays that have the way the education system is completely different from the way education was during maybe Terence and the rest of the panelists from your time. If I don't want to put myself as being too old, but you know, my period was also completely different, you know. So yes, if we empower these young people with information, they know what to do. We can just give them the ideas. Just about rallying them together and organizing them. The rest, they will do it, you know. And sometimes we should also change the way we talk, because a lot of parents really don't understand the education system, so they cannot ascertain where the level of their children are. So sometimes they talk down on the children, and that puts children to shut down and actually affect the communication between the parents. In Sudan, for example, if a child is you know, the pass rate is clear. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. If
Yes.
your child in a class of 25, if your child is doing about 20, 25, then the eyebrow is raised, and then the parents will get involved. But here they don't have that. You know, they say, your child is doing good. They just write report. They go. There's no reputation. There's no nothing. So the children just fail. You know, at the end of the day, when they don't do very well.
Adela, let me just interject there. Don't you think that gives the parents at least something to watch out for? Here, there's no exams to say somebody's passed. There is no failure. So somebody coming from Africa like me, okay, if I didn't open my eyes to see what's going on, how will I know my child is doing good?
Absolutely.
And you see, the problem I have here is people sometimes don't call a spade a spade. Black is sometimes called gray. Tell me my child is absolutely not doing good, you know, and then we can take it from there. I can tell you another small little story. There was the time when one of my daughter was going to school, and all she was doing was going to school. I think not going to class for some time, and I didn't know that until late. So when I went there, they say, "Oh, goes to is it tea room or restroom?" I said, "How come I wasn't informed about this? You're telling me now when I'm coming to the report or to parents' evening." So I reacted very badly. They didn't like the way I reacted. I said, when there is such a situation, you write to me or you call me. So you see, it's not being proactive the way I look at it. So it doesn't help to some degree.
There's a big gap between big gap between parents understanding how the children are, and that creates a lot of conflicts within parents. In actual fact, I think a lot of young people nowadays, they actually learn a lot more outside of the school than anything in school. So I think it's important that we also empower them about this information, how best the community can take care of themselves with this COVID-19, give them that a responsibility, either spreading the message through social media or through their friends, and also uplifting those within a community who are not necessarily, able to catch up. So in this COVID time, I think it should bring us a lot more closer than before, and there are a lot of things that for us to sit ahead of us. There's a lot of unknown.
Yeah. I would like to thank you very much. Yeah, that's a big contribution, Peter Agala. We can see that, with coronavirus, it needs everybody's effort. From what I hear, it's just certain people's effort. We need the community, we need even the teachers, we need the government, we need everybody to contribute so as to keep everybody safe. I can see that we are now coming to the end of our show this morning, UK time. I'm now going to ask everybody in the panel to leave their message. What message would you like to leave our people with as we go? But before we do that, we have another community contributor who is saying that I'm happy for the program, my sister from another mother, Terencia Morgan, but we are missing my ETO. I mean, if you guys can mix that lovely teaching with my ET in future. Mali is our language. So they're saying we should be talking in our language as well. So that was from one of our contributors at our forum. Otherwise, we are very happy. They've been watching the show. They have enjoyed it, and we are now coming to the end of the show. Oh, another one. She's saying, thanks for the wonderful advice. Thank you too. I'd like to thank everybody who has been watching our show from our forum. Thank you. It's because of you people that we keep going. When we get your feedback, when you tell us that you're enjoying it, when you tell us that you've learned something, that gives us the energy to go ahead and produce more and more shows. I would like you also one day come and participate in the show or another one. Thank you for this show. I'm very happy. That's from another listener out there. Thank you, all of you. This Saturday, please, I'm going to give you chances to give a message, give out a message to our listeners out there. What is the message you would like to leave today? I know we cannot finish. This topic is a very huge topic, but this is all we have time for this morning. So anybody can go ahead. What's the message you'd like to leave in one sentence? Thank you.
Corona is not going to spoil the world for us. We are stronger than Corona. Just the name Corona shouldn't bring fear to you. It's only something that we have to overcome. Remain strong and don't let Corona destroy you even before you get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. For me, yeah, I will. We should continue to work together. And also, there's so much unknown in when it comes to COVID-19 or Corona, that we still need to continue to work together, and also still continue to follow the rules and regulation that are put in place. No complacency. Let's just maintain whichever part of the country you are in, all the governmental rules that are put in place. Please do follow them, because they're there for a reason. So, and continue to protect and serve your families.
Okay. Así de daña pagara, what is the In other words, if fire falls on your foot, you don't wait for someone to come and put it off or put it away. So therefore, my dear people, the government has got measures, they've put things in place. You yourself do what you can in the best way you can to protect yourself against this COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you. And my message to all of you is that this is a joint venture. We all have to participate in the fight against this corona. We shouldn't wait for somebody out there to fight it. We shouldn't be pointing our hands to the government. We should, in fact, work out ways of how we can keep safe from this corona. And if you know something good, share the information, then keep it to yourself, because everybody doesn't actually know what this corona is. We are all learning. So if you have some important information, it doesn't matter whether you're in Africa, it doesn't matter which part of the country or continent you're in, share it. Maybe you have that golden solution. Maybe you have that vaccine we are looking for. So please come out and share with us. We'll be very, very happy, especially the herbalists. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.